Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Vandana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Vandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Vandana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Vandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Vandana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Vandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Down Bishop Parāṁ Bhagavad-Gita Sattva Sri His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Down Bishop Parāṁ Bhagavad-Gita also Tathā Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. From Sekaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaurapamanandi Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, so we're in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita as it is, and it's text 32, and there's only 34 verses in this chapter, so we're on 32, coming near the end of this chapter. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text 32. Mamhi pārtha vyapāśritya. Yepishu pāpa-yonayaḥ. Striyo vaiśyās tathā śūdrās. Tepi yānti parāṁ gatim. Mami pārtha vyapāśritya. Ye pishu pāpa-yonayaḥ. Striyo vaiśyās tathā śūdrās. Te yānti parāṁ gatim. Mamhi pārtha vyapāśritya. Ye pishu pāpa-yonayaḥ. Striyo vaiśyās tathā śūdrās. Te yānti parāṁ gatim. Devotees. Mama ye pāpa-yonayaḥ. Striyo vaiśyās tathā śūdrās. Te yānti parāṁ gatim. Mami pārtha vyapāśritya. Ye pishu pāpa-yonayaḥ. Striyo vaiśyās tathā śūdrās. Te yānti parāṁ gatim. Mami pārtha vyapāśritya. Ye pishu pāpa-yonayaḥ. Striyo vaiśyās tathā śūdrās. Te yānti parāṁ gatim. Mami pārtha vyapāśritya. Ye pishu pāpa-yonayaḥ. Striyo vaiśyās tathā śūdrās. Word for word, mom of me, he, certainly, parāṁ, O son of Pṛthā, vyapāśritya, particularly taking shelter, yea, those who, api, also, syuḥ, are pāpa-yonayaḥ, born of a lower family. Striyaḥ, women. Vaiśyāḥ, mercantile people. Tathā, also. Śūdrāḥ, lower class men. Te, even they. Yānti, go. Parāṁ, to the supreme. Gatim, destination. Purport and translations by His Very Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai. O son of Pṛthā, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaiśyās, merchants, and śūdrās, workers, can attain the supreme destination. Please repeat, O son of Pṛthā, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaiśyās, merchants, and śūdrās, workers, can attain the supreme destination. Right. Purport. It is clearly declared here by the Supreme Lord that in devotional service there's no distinction between the lower and higher classes of people. In the material conception of life, there are such divisions, but for a person engaged in transcendental devotional service to the Lord, there are not. Everyone is eligible for the supreme destination. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 2:4-18, it is stated that even the lowest, who are called chandalas, dog eaters, can be purified by association with a pure devotee. Therefore, devotional service and the guidance of a pure devotee are so strong that there is no discrimination between the lower and higher classes of men. Anyone can take to it. The most simple man taking shelter of the pure devotee can be purified by proper guidance. According to the different modes of material nature, men are classified in the mode of goodness, brahmanas, the mode of passion, kshatriyas or administrators, the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, vaiśyās or merchants, and the mode of ignorance, śūdrās or workers. Those lower than them are called chandalas, and they are born in sinful families. Generally, the association of those born in sinful families is not accepted by the higher classes. But the process of devotional service is so strong that the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord can enable people of all the lower classes to attain the highest perfection of life. This is possible only when one takes shelter of Krishna. As indicated here by the word vyapāśritya, one has to take shelter completely of Krishna. Then one can become much greater than great jnanis and yogis. So let me do the prayers, if I can find them. Om Gyanā Timarandasya Gyanā Gyanā Salakaya Takso Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishamano Sutta Devi Paramami Hari Priye Vanta Kapias de Rubius Cha Kripa Sindhu Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasiri Gauda Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll just give a very quick overview of the chapter. This is chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. So, in the beginning, Krishna is glorifying this knowledge, this most confidential knowledge that he's about to share with Arjuna. And actually, he's sharing it with all of us, because this is why we have the Bhagavad-Gita as it is. We know Arjuna, was a pure devotee, but in this case, Krishna chose him to hear this knowledge that he wants to share with Arjuna, so that we all could benefit. All Krishna's parts and parcels can benefit from hearing this knowledge. So that's why he was sharing. And he was sharing with Arjuna because Arjuna was his friend, he was a devotee, and he was non-envious. And that's really important, because it said we cannot go back to the spiritual world if we don't purify ourselves from enviousness, from envying another living entity. And he also shared with Arjuna his Aishwarya, the knowledge of his relationship with the world. How he pervades, how he maintains, by his energies, but yet how he's aloof and independent. He explains the creation and destruction of the material world also by his energies. And he tells Arjuna that he is the supreme director, and how it's so that he's the supreme director and controller. And then he continues to share this knowledge when he says that he's not understood, nor is he revealed to the fools and rascals. And he has that choice. He decides who he's going to share it with and who he's not going to share it with. And in fact, if a living entity wants to forget Krishna, he'll facilitate that he can forget him. He facilitates that for the living entity who wants to be independent of taking his role as servitor of the Lord. He wants to be the enjoyer instead of servitor. He wants to be served. And then he explains about the different types of worshipers there are. And then at last, he talks about the glories of Krishna Bhakti. And it culminates in the last verse, verse 34, which you will, come upon whoever's going to do 34, but still I'll read it. Anyway, I'll just read what it says. He wants us to engage our mind always in thinking of me. The devotee wants to think of Krishna all the time. Prabhupada says, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Become my devotee and offer obeisances unto me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Every time I read this, I think of one workshop a friend of mine she was giving, and I was helping her with the workshop, and this was some time ago before I came to Vrindavan. And some of the people who were in the class, they were just coming from the general population, and this verse really upset them because they were complaining about why does Krishna always talk about me, 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 me? Like, why do we have to worship him? They were interpreting it in a mundane way, like he was egotistical, is saying that all he does is talk about himself. So they were providing their argument about why, they can't understand what the Bhagavad-Gita is really saying. So, in this purport, it's giving the examples of the lower class persons and explaining how there's no barrier in understanding the scriptures and coming to Krishna consciousness and trying to understand about God. And actually, everyone puts this process in the sphere of a Hindu religion. And it's actually not a Hindu religion, even though it's put in that category. Because actually, the word Hindu is a perverted pronouncement of Sindhu. Those persons, I think they were Persian at that time, who were trying to pronounce Sindhu, but they said Hindu instead, and that just became the regular explanation for all the religions within the Hindu. But we're not Hindu, because this knowledge that we're learning and practicing applies to every single living entity in the whole world. Every corner of the world. It applies to everyone. And yes, the Vedic knowledge came from India. But when Srila Prabhupada was trying to preach here during that time, no one would accept him. He couldn't get anyone to really take to the process. Even when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent some of his disciples to London, still, they only brought, I think there was maybe two people, it was one German man or one German woman, I don't remember which one, but they couldn't make devotees, they came back. And look what Prabhupada did. Now he is the very beautiful example of understanding how to spread this process of Krishna consciousness, how every living entity can come back to their original position and take to the process without any classification or higher and lower. That's only in a material thinking. In this process, whether you're sweeping the floor whether you're emptying the garbage, whether you are addressing the deities, it's all devotional service. And that's what matters. Because the materialistic thinking is higher position. And higher position only influences and makes your ego bigger. You know, that way you have the motivation of lording it over everyone, because that's why you came to the material world. To lord it over everyone, to enjoy like Krishna was enjoying, and to try to find some happiness in gaining material assets. So we know in the material world, you know, that whole mood of being whatever higher or lower is very prominent. And even in the caste system in India in the past, it was the same. You know, if the Muslim shadow fell on you, you were contaminated. So it's not like that in this process at all. Anyone, it said even a chandala, who's a dog eater. And it talks about, now when we talk about this whole issue of women, right? We know in the material realm, it said, Prabhupada, I just read that it's difficult for the women to take to the spiritual process because if they're materialistic women, Prabhupada distinguished devotional women from material women. He said that anyone who has joined the Krishna consciousness movement, has taken this process, he says, very, very intelligent. He said they're very, very intelligent to be able to take to this process. Can't find where I saw it, but so this whole division, and this creates divisions. This is the problem. And still we're having to deal with divisions, because actually I've been thinking about the fact that when you're in a different country, right? If you go to a different country, even if you're in India or you go to America or you go anywhere, all the territory is drawn, boundaries, and also you're considered a foreigner. Wherever you go, if you're not in your own so-called country, then you're considered a foreigner. But we're all foreigners. Every living entity in the world is a foreigner in this material world. We don't belong here. We belong with Krishna. But yet we're claiming my designation. I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm old, I'm young, I'm Indian, I'm Caucasian, I'm black, I'm African, I'm whatever. We've taken all these identities on like a second skin. And this is how we identify ourselves. And if we see someone from our country, right away we're drawn to them because, oh, you're from Gujarat, or oh, you're from Texas, or you're from, you know, immediately we identify. Instead of actually identifying ourselves as servants of the Lord. And every single one of us is servants of the Lord. That's our natural position. So we're all foreigners trying to travel around in this material world, trying to find a little bit of happiness from material enjoyment, and it's not working. We're trying to exploit material nature and try to enjoy. And what would have happened if Prabhupada had taken on the same mood? None of us would be here. I certainly wouldn't be here. None of us would be here if Prabhupada had not gone. And everyone was telling him, even the Mataji who, you know, said he could travel on her freight line. She was telling him, why are you going there? You're going to die. You're an old man. Everyone was discouraging him from coming. But Prabhupada was determined to follow instructions of his spiritual master. And that was his main focus. I have to accomplish what my spiritual master, the service that he gave me. And if we think about, if we're coming to Davi Shakti's class, which is really a very, very nice class, I hope everyone is coming, because we have to know the struggles that Prabhupada went through in order to really appreciate what we've been given. And it's said here that if we associate and have the fortune to have the association of pure devotees, certainly we're going to change. I know when I was coming, I met the devotees in 1990, and I got initiated in 1993. But I was telling them, I'm not going to be a devotee, so don't try to preach to me. That was my mood. I was just kind of hanging out with them, you know, like they were nice persons, and I wanted to be around nice persons, but I didn't understand the whole process. In fact, when I saw them chanting, I was like, why do they keep saying this over and over again? And in fact, and this happens too to other persons, you know, because we're so blinded by our material viewpoint, and we're so contaminated and conditioned that when I first went to the institute where my future spiritual master was, they had deities of Gaur and Nitai, but I couldn't see them. The only thing I remember seeing was a black box and light. But to personally see the deities, I never saw them for a long time. They didn't reveal themselves to me, you know. So I was talking about Srila Prabhupada. What if he had said, oh, I don't want to do this, it's too hard, I'm having so much difficulty. And to go to New York City, and it's freezing. I mean, I'm from America, but it's freezing there. Even I can't tolerate the cold. But he went, coming from India, not even having experienced this type of snow, the cold, the freezing cold, in his same clothing that he wore here in India, but yet he was totally transcendental and had, you know, already like thought about, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it for my spiritual master. And he had so many difficulties. Things got stolen. He didn't even think he was going to be able to even have prasadam when he came. But it didn't matter to him. He sacrificed everything so that he could bring this message to the whole world. And so if he hadn't like taken in those so-called hippies, you know, who were living like a degraded lifestyle, taking drugs, having illicit sex, breaking all the four principles, if he hadn't seen them as spirit souls, he would never have tried to preach to them. Having faith in Krishna. Krishna is the doer, I'm not the doer. I'm going to be the instrument of my spiritual master. I'm going to be instrument of Krishna. And he was. He just sat in the park and chanted because he had faith in holy names. This process, we've got the holy name, which is Krishna personally. If we can get to the point of chanting purely, we have the holy name. And we have the spiritual master who's sent here to get us, to drag us out of this material world, this world that we think we're enjoying. We have the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is about Krishna. We have the Bhagavad-Gita, which is spoken by Krishna. What else do we need? That's everything. That's everything we need. He's here. He's accompanying us. We all just have to take advantage. So he said that even the Chandalas, you know. So I just wanted to talk about Srila Prabhupada because it reminds me also what he did. I like to remember, like Prabhupada did this, you know, and my spiritual master also sacrificed so I could come to this process. So it doesn't matter what body we're in. The body has nothing to do with it. Even though there were so many difficulties in ISKCON, they went through so many things about the women and the children, and so many things happened, you know, because of the lack of consciousness, of pure Krishna consciousness, because no one could be like Srila Prabhupada. But because of the love that Srila Prabhupada was giving to these devotees, everything manifested, and they became his instruments. Can you imagine? For me, I was talking with someone the other day, coming to India, this space, there was nothing there, just plain ground, nothing was here. And to actually, as a disciple, because of your love for your spiritual master, to build this temple to please him, to fulfill what he wanted, his desires, to have a temple here in this property. And I think it's hard to even get things done here in India, what to speak of building a temple. And it's very beautiful. And so many people are coming now. This morning I heard they distributed 6,000 books. That's wonderful. Like, it's amazing. And so those persons who are Indian-bodied, who live here, they're coming. And they're very happy here to come to the temple, to dance, and to see the Lord. They're so enthusiastic to come. It's got to be very difficult, at least for me, like, you know, bringing your child to the temple at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're coming and you're sitting in front waiting for the Lord to have darshan. It's wonderful. We don't see that type of enthusiasm in the U.S., actually, you know. So when I look at it, I just appreciate it so much, that this type of mood is there to come. I want to see the Lord, and I want the Lord to see me, and the Lord wants to see me. You know? It's really beautiful. And so this thing about being in a lower birth, you know, like for, you know, a woman. But it said, and the śūdrās and the vaiśyās. Now, we know about vaiśyās because mercantile people, the first thing they tell you when you're buying something is, and they want to give you a deal, they say, oh, no profit. I'm not making any profit. I'll give it to you for this amount, and there's no profit. And you know if they're doing that, there is a profit. But they want you to buy, so I tell you no profit. That's lying. But because they're vaiśyās, that's what they do. You know, they want to make money, you know. And so all the lower class, talking about the women, the vaiśyās, the merchants, the śūdrās, but then lower than that is the chandalas, who are dog eaters. And we can say that's the Chinese, because from what I've read, they do eat dogs. But just see, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, even though he didn't want to go to China, but he went, the devotees from China are coming. You just see, even Indra Swami went to Mongolia and made devotees. Every town and village is the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Spread it all around. It's not just here in India and for Indians, because actually Prabhupada said the responsibility of the Indian body is to also spread this movement, to preach to everyone. He wanted the Indians to preach to the whole world, you know, because it came from here. It's the Vedic knowledge. It came from here. So this is what Prabhupada's desire is. So even the Chandala, he comes from sinful family, but still, if they take to the process, if they meet a pure devotee, if they associate with devotees, they can become purified from the contamination of the material world. And were contaminated before we started coming to this process. And this movement actually, in terms of speaking again of women, and this is, I was speaking about women in terms of materialistic women, but Prabhupada told, particularly the conversation he had once with Yamuna Devi, who left her body some years ago. And Prabhupada trained her how to worship the deities. And my Guru Maharaj also trained me how to worship the deities. There was no barrier in terms of who can learn the process of deity worship or whatever service there is to give, Prabhupada didn't discriminate. That's why he was successful. Because every man, woman, and child in this movement is needed to spread this mission of Srila Prabhupada all over the world. In February, I went to Mauritius to preach, and that island is very small, Mauritius. But they have 5 temples, big ones. They have Rukmini Dwarkadish, they have Radhagolokananda, they have the Panchatattva, they have Krishna Balaram, that's a farm. And I think I left one out. Oh, Jagannath Temple. And so every place you go, it's kind of divided like small little villages. Every place you go that they took me, there was a small temple. And it was small, it wasn't like huge temple, but everybody was so enthusiastic. Prabhupada said that Mauritius was going to be the first Krishna conscious country. And they're very enthusiastic. But here there's so much enthusiasm too. There's so much enthusiasm, to come to this temple. And I'm sure Prabhupada is very happy about it, very pleased to see all the persons who are coming, to this temple. So our material past, no matter who we are, can be purified. There's no obstacles. All we have to do is take to the process sincerely, because everything's been given. There's nothing lacking. The only thing that might be lacking is our ability to chant attentively and purely. So there's no impediment, no matter what body you're in. And the sinful tendencies are in our heart. That's why our heart is dirty. So we have to remove all the dirt that's accumulated to make room for Krishna, to clean our hearts, so we can offer pure service, pure devotional service without any motivation or anything we want or need from Krishna. We have to develop love for Krishna. That's what we're here for. We have to develop love for each other. How can we develop love for Krishna when we're not going to treat each other nicely and respectfully and see all the good and not the faults? Krishna only sees the good. Just look at Pṛthā. She got the position of a mother, and she was going to kill Krishna. But we are trying to love Krishna. We're not trying to kill him. So what more will he give us? If we just serve him nicely, if we just serve him with no motivations, we don't want anything. So Krishna, I don't want anything. I just want you and to be your eternal servant and fulfill that role. Oh, and I wanted to go back, because what I was saying in terms of the women. So we're this movement. The highest form of bhakti is who? Who is it? Who represents the highest form of bhakti?
Vrindavan.
Huh?
Vrindavan.
Radharani. Shrimati Radharani. Krishna bows at her lotus feet. And he became Lord Chaitanya because he wanted to know, well, I'm Krishna, but I'm wanting to understand, what is she feeling? How come she's able to love me so much? So he came as Lord Chaitanya to show us, to help us understand, This love is not the lust of the material world. This love is so high, and we're trying to reach for it, to understand what is real love. And that's Shrimati Radharani. So all we have to do is just take advantage of this process. You know, chant with our full heart, give our full attention to our rounds, to the chanting of the holy name, so Krishna can be present and dance on our tongue. So I'll end it here and I'll leave, I think it's what, about 10 of, 5 of? Does anyone have the time? I don't have.
6 o'clock.
Okay, so I'll open it up. If you have any questions or comments or additions or realizations, please share with me. You have any reflections? Yes, Prabhu? So Prabhu, right? I can't see from here, sorry. It's Mataji?
Srila Prabhupada
No, it's me.
Chinese, they will be the last, but they will be the best.
Really?
He said that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Second is, I feel that for Prabhupada, things worked in his life. If we call him a Nitya Siddha or whatever, but still Prabhupada, for him things worked at its full.
Yes.
Prabhupada was all successful.
Yes.
But I see many ISKCON devotees struggling.
Yes.
Some have left the movement.
Yes.
Although they have also done a lot of service.
Yes.
So why didn't the Guru Parampara, Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya protect them?
You know, yes, I understand what you're saying.
Because a father will always want his son to be even more glorious. Siddhanta wanted Prabhupada to be a successful preacher.
Yes.
Prabhupada wants us to be a successful preacher.
Yes.
Then why are there failures? In spite of the Guru Parampara, the absolute truth.
Because we have free will. You know, I always ask the question, why do some stay? And they have difficulties too. I mean, because we are from the conditioned material world, he didn't say it was going to be easy. The minute you decide that you want to take to this process, Maya, she's waiting. You know, and some of us are weak. We're not very strong. Because we have to believe we have to have faith and we have to believe what the scriptures say. Prabhupada says, if you follow the 4 regulative principles, if you chant your rounds, if you go to Mongol Arctic, if you read the scriptures, he will protect you. So somewhere there's a gap. But still, those persons who offered devotional service will never be forgotten by Krishna, nor will they be forgotten by their spiritual master. Because so many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples also left. But they were remembered by Srila Prabhupada on the time of their passing. And there's so many stories that show that Prabhupada remembered them. Because this is a battlefield. This material world is a battlefield. Even our consciousness is a battlefield. The mind is so crazy. The minute you decide, I'm going to chant, what happens? The mind starts coming in. And you have to keep redirecting it to think about the holy name. So we have to be compassionate to those persons who have left. Because it's not that those persons who stay are not having just as many difficulties. But they won't be forgotten. And Prabhupada said, in the scriptures, it said that there's no diminution. Whatever you offered, when you come back, if you did up to 10, when you come back, you'll start with 11. You'll have that credit, spiritual credit in your bank account. You won't lose it. It's not like when you do some material activity, it's all over. But when you do spiritual activities, it's always with you. So when you come back, if you've left and you haven't followed, when you come back, you'll just start again. You'll meet devotees again. You'll start the process again. But yes, for some, it can be difficult because Maya is very strong. It's said, Ayesha Guna Mayi Mama Maya Dharatyaya. She is very powerful. And don't think she's not. And Prabhupada told his disciples, you're not scared enough of Maya. And we should also be afraid to not chant. We have to chant. We have to chant for protection. Is that helping at all?
Yeah, you answered it very nicely.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mataji?
Like you said, you mentioned that you were also confused, you were not deciding, you were just hanging around. So what made you decide, if you can share?
Association. You know, me, I was totally like clueless, you know, but I was hanging around with devotees. Because in the beginning it was very difficult. I didn't come around. I would come and then I would go. I would come, then I would go. And I would just go do my thing, then come back. And then I started staying longer and longer. And then the next thing I knew, I was getting initiated.
You never made a decision. So you never made
Well, when I was hearing, my Guru Maharaj was speaking a lot. And I was hearing. See, hearing is the first thing that's the most important, to hear. You have to hear from a pure devotee. And if you're hearing, it's going to affect you. You're going to feel it. Because if you're actually looking for spiritual life, you know, because internally I was looking for spiritual life. I felt like material life was very hard. It was very hard, difficult. And I look at the life that I have now, and I'm very happy about it. And then when I compare, I said I was miserable, and I didn't know I was miserable. But just associating with the devotees, their influence, that's what it says. It said, it said that just being with a pure devotee, you may not realize it, but being with a pure devotee is association, right? Birds of a feather, association. If you hang out with a drunkard, what are you going to do? You're going to drink because the person wants to drink. If you hang around with somebody who's chanting, after some time and you take their association, you're going to think, oh, okay. It's going to affect you. The chanting is very powerful. The Maha Mantra is very powerful. We don't realize it. So it had an effect on me, and I was hearing, and then it started making sense. The more I heard, the more it started making sense to me, and I was like, yeah, that's right. And also I was thinking, you know, like, I don't want to just work. You just work hard like an ass, then you die. What's in between? That was my thing. I was like, there's got to be something more than this. You know, so when you have association, gradually, it's a voluntary thing. No one forces. You can't force love. Love is not forced. If it doesn't come naturally, you know, it means it's given freely. So Krishna lets us make our own decision. What did he tell Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gita? He told him, I've told you everything. Now, do what you want to do. So my Guru Maharaj told me everything. I think, do what you want to do. So I said, okay, I want to be a devotee. You know, we don't understand the potency of a pure devotee. We can think, oh, I'm just hanging out and this and that, you know. At least you're hanging out with the right company to change your ways. Is that okay? Okay. Yes, Babu?
You mentioned in the course of the class of the Mauritius becoming the first Krishna conscious country. So there are many nice yatras in our ISKCON.
Yes.
But then some places, actually, I'm just speaking, you will catch it. Bhakti Charu Maharaj once said in the Mayapur festival that Prabhupada said that in Bengal you will find the best and worst of everything. In Bengal you will find the best and worst of everything. So I see in some yatras there are some devotees who make a full mess out of the yatra. Whereas Mauritius, as you mentioned, I feel that the devotees are very good. They are cultured, they are united, and that's why they flourish and they progress. Even the African yatra is very good. I see that. So, what to do in cases where there are people, devotees who are spoiling the...
Well, if I was you, one, I would tell you to be careful about criticizing the devotees. That's number one. We shouldn't criticize the devotees. Whatever their struggle is, Krishna is seeing their struggle. And if they're devotees and they're chanting and they're in the shower, even though, because you cannot be in a worldwide organization and expect everybody, every single person to be on the same level. That doesn't work. You have higher and lower consciousness. Some just came, some are still struggling, like that. But we look for the good. My Gurudev used to do a little exercise with his disciples. He would have us, particularly if you're having difficulties with one devotee, right? So he would get us together and we would sit in a meeting and he would tell us, he would assign us to a particular devotee and say, and we knew that we were having difficulty with that particular devotee. And he would say, okay, so you tell me something good about this devotee. And we'd have to say, okay, they have a nice sari. I mean, you have to find something good. We have to look for the good. We cannot go around picking. One time, though, I was in Mauritius, and one person was asking a question saying, I don't feel inspired. I only feel inspired by certain speakers. Some speakers I don't feel inspired by. And I'm like, but just hear what the person is saying. You be the inspiration. Don't criticize. Be the inspiration. Be the inspiration. Be the help. We don't know what those devotees are going through. So that's my response to you, that this is a worldwide organization. You will never find everyone on the same level.
Actually, I can just make one point. Say if there are 10,000 devotees whom I know, and you say you don't criticize. I'm just speaking about one or two. But extremists, I can tolerate like thousands, but some are beyond like extremists who are like, so what, narcissist is the word?
But are you in any kind of a management position? Are you a counselor? Are you, anything like that? Or you just are picking?
Well, I was, how do I say? Well, I have been through various situations. So I have met, I'm not criticizing 10,000 devotees, 100 devotees.
But even one, you should be careful. Even one. Let me just read something to you, okay? Do you know the Gita? Let me just give you this one, okay? Before we end. It's in the same chapter. This is text 30 in the same chapter. I did 32. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. That means if the person is still trying to be a devotee, regardless of difficulties he's having with his mind or body or whatever, what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad-Gita about this person? And it's not saying that the person should be acting foolishly on purpose, But it says here, the word syuḥ used in this verse is very significant, and we should understand it properly. When a living entity is conditioned, he has two kinds of activities. One is conditional and the other is constitutional. So those persons still have conditioning that they need to work on. So if we're standing from a distance and we're pointing to the devotee, I don't think it's a good position to be in. And if we complain to my Guru Maharaj, he would say, why don't you, instead of criticizing, why don't you help? Why don't you ask, what can I do? What can I add to make it more positive? What is my contribution? What contribution can I make? Not what fault I can find, because we'll always find fault. We have faults. We ourselves are not faultless. So, anything you want to add to that?
Actually, just I would say that if someone is a good soul,
Yeah, but you're making judgments. I don't understand. You're making judgments. You're picking a good soul against the one who's not so good.
Okay, you answered.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for coming to the Bhagavad-Gita class. Hare Krishna. I really appreciate your attention. Hare Krishna.